Hello, everyone. Welcome to the after lunch party. We have a we have another exciting session this afternoon. Please take a moment to get your to sit down yourself. So my English is not good at all. So we have a full agenda this afternoon, and we couldn't start on the better way. We will have here on stage somebody that has been on the industry, on the business for over 30 years. She's an acclaimed business grow expert, and she's a renowned entrepreneur. So she has a big brain. Maybe she would, if we had like a jewelry industry Shark Tank, maybe she would be on the Shark Tank. And she has been building up her business, and she was listed at the Australia Stock Exchange, and the company that she works for, her own company, Hill Co. And I keep calling you Helen. It's Elle. Has been doing business for 10 years. He helps businesses grow. So, ladies and gentlemen, a big, warm applause for Elle Hill. Oh,
Hello. I'm Elle Hill, which you might have heard from my copious questions. I am the founder and CEO of Hill and Company. So why am I talking to you today about why initiating ESG into your business strategy is essential, and how and why you should be promoting it without greenwashing? How do you make sure that you can do these things? Why am I the person you should listen to talking about this? I've been in the business for 30 years, as Rui delightfully told you. And I started working, my very first job was for the largest color jewelry manufacturer in America, servicing the majors in the US market. So I started out with gemstones and fell in love with them from a very early stage. And since then, I went on to launch my own online-only business, which I brought public in under 5 years on the Australian Stock Exchange. After that, Hill and Company was launched, which has been going for 10 years. And we help some of the largest businesses in the industry, from Blue Nile to Rappaport to diamond mines, ruby mines, cutters and polishers and traders of gemstones and diamonds and jewelry. But it is all we do. We love the puzzle of business, and we love making businesses grow. And because we've gotten to see behind the scenes and some of the largest businesses in the world, we've seen all the mistakes that have been made, and we usually know how to jump over them. And one of the mistakes that lots of us are going to make, and we're going to make mistakes. If we're not trying something new, maybe we'll make no mistakes. But if we're all growing and we're trying something new, we're going to make some mistakes. And as we navigate this demand for sustainability and environmental responsibility, social responsibility, how do we learn how to talk about this without being accused of greenwashing? And why is this important? Okay? So that's who I am and what I'm talking to you guys about today. And I hope there's going to be some time for questions. Let's see. Why should you do it, first of all? If you don't have a moral, compulsion to think about the future generations, you as a business person need to initiate sustainability into your competitive strategy, right? Because it's already coming. The end consumers are beginning to vote with their wallets, right? They want to know where things are from. They want to know how the human beings that are helping to make those things are being treated, what kind of wages, how many women, what kind of inclusivity and diversity. They want to know these things, especially as we go down to Gen Z, right? So 33% are choosing to buy from brands. A third of the people are saying, if I can't see some evidence, if someone hasn't communicated something about how they are moving towards sustainability or paying attention to ESG, then I'm not going to buy from them. So this is a business decision. Even if you don't care, even if you're just looking at EBITDA, which is my favorite thing to look at, it's still something that you have to initiate into your competitive strategy. There's a lot of Googling that you can do to get statistics like this. 21% of the people, a fifth, are saying if we could see more, just anything on the packaging or on the websites or on the communications, we would be buying from those companies. So this is the why, the very simple why behind it, even if you don't feel passionate, as I do, about what we need to do for future generations. But before I proceed, what's sustainability? There is no definition. And I just had the luxury of seeing Jenna White from Responsible Rangers, I think it's called, Colorado School of Mines. She's a PhD in sustainability, and she shared this with me, and I wanted to add this, because this was just in Tucson a week and a half ago, that in 1987, the United Nations Brundtland Commission said this: there's no definition of sustainability. You might say something different than you, and then might say something different than you. But they said in 1987, and there's been no better definition that I or many of the experts, the giants upon whose shoulders I stand, have identified than this one: meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. That is about as best a definition that I have seen or heard of. But even when we look at that definition from oh so long ago, which honestly I don't believe has been improved upon, there's many different types of sustainability. There's ecological sustainability, there's economic sustainability, and there's social sustainability. All of them are different. So when we're speaking, we have to be very clear that we use a map, like Ruth from the opal mine in Australia just told me on her website. There you are. She said, I talk about sustainability, but I say, here is the definition that I use on my website. So just like on a map, where we would say the blue lines mean the hard slopes and the red lines mean the even harder ones, we should use a key so that people understand what we're talking about, what type of sustainability we're talking about, right? And we should make sure that we're not confusing a few different things: charity, cause marketing, and impact, okay? Charity, giving to causes that are very passionate about ESG and working very hard to make things the way they should be in relation to their own definition of sustainability, that is great and that is wonderful. But it's not about changing the core of the way you do business to do more good and less bad and to make progress towards your own sustainable goals, right? Also, cause marketing. If you buy this pendant, I will give 10% to the Pink Ribbon Foundation for breast cancer. That is fabulous as well. But it does not affect the core of the way that you are doing business that will create better efforts towards your definition of sustainability, right? So impact is the big juggernaut. That's what we're all looking for. We're looking for impact. We're looking at the way we actually function within our teams and in our business, and how can we modify that so that we can move towards sustainability in a way that we transparently communicate with our audience. And we want to communicate with the audience because of that 21% that's only getting bigger and bigger, right? So it's your reputation. And when you're communicating about something, you never want to be seen to have made something up. You tell one lie and people think she just says anything, right? He just says anything. So make sure that you think about how you're communicating, and we'll go over kind of 5 big steps, 5 big areas or buckets that I want you to look at, because it's very hard to build a very good reputation, and it's so easy to destroy it. And just like client acquisition costs are higher than client retention costs, it's much harder to rebuild a reputation you've already lost than it is for you to make sure that you're communicating effectively and carefully and consistently as you go. Okay, so I pulled this one out because there's another aspect of sustainability that gets confused. Just because you're doing business legally doesn't mean you're championing the effort towards sustainability, right? So make sure, and this is from about the Kimberly process, and I'm sure someone can help educate me about a similar law or guideline in the gemstone industry. Just because you're complying with what is required doesn't mean you can ballyhoo that as what a wonderful thing that you're doing, right? So not doing business illegally does not mean that you're doing business sustainably. It just means you're complying with what already is. How can we look hard at ourselves and push ourselves to make more progress and communicate that clearly, right? So how? That's the big question. We're gonna look at these 5 buckets. Make commitments that you can keep, okay? So under promise and over deliver. We're gonna look at these more closely, one by one. Clearly communicate. Progress is the important thing, not perfection. make progress. And share goals regularly. Consistency breeds trust. Every time I've asked a question at this event, I've said, hi, I'm Elle Hill from Hill & Company, Fine Jewelry Launch and Growth Management, right? We want consistency. Share goals regularly, and people will begin to trust that you're actually monitoring and measuring equals moving. Just doing something and not saying, how effective was it? What can we learn from how effective it wasn't so that we can get better the next time? That's super important, okay? So look, let's go bucket by bucket. I got 20 minutes. Okay, make commitments you can keep, okay? There are a ton of resources and organizations, but certainly the Sustainable Development Goals give you a whole slew of a rafter of choices of how you can contribute to ESG goals that they have set. Go through here. Maybe you think it's wonderful to have a good education, but you don't have the infrastructure or the finance to set up a school. So that's probably not going to be the place where you're going to make some change, right? So make sure that the contributions that you choose are ones that you can deliver on, right? Look at your infrastructure, the people that you have in your business, the talent, the skill sets that you have that you can apply towards some sustainable development goals, and look at your finances. It doesn't come cheap to add the extra effort, right? So take a look at your finances and make sure that you can allocate a sustainable amount every month, quarter, year towards the goals that you select so that you can deliver them. So under-promise, over-deliver. Select 3 maximum. I mean, I kind of always tell people select 1, no matter what they're starting out with. Social media platforms, sustainable development goals. Start with one that you really, really feel passionate about, or you really feel like your infrastructure, your skill sets, and your finances can support it, and double down on that. Get it right. And we'll go through the other 4 sections so that you can tell how you're getting it right and communicating it. Keep limiting your focus until you've got the bicycle moving really well and you can take off the wheels and add number 2 and number 3. Select maybe 3 areas and make sure that you examine the internal capabilities on your team to understand that you're going to get the biggest output and impact from the sustainable development goal that you've selected, right? So don't pick one that's going to be super, super hard for you to do. It's just like riding that bicycle. Don't go down a big hill the first time. Go on a flat surface. Pick something that you really feel like your team can get behind, you have the skill set and the finances for, and you can actually make an impact that you can measure. And that will encourage you. Like when you lose those first 5 pounds when you're trying to lose weight, it just makes you stick with it, right? The second bucket is clearly communicate. Don't be ambiguous. Go for the detail. Unpeel the onion. Rather than just saying, we're committed to the Sustainable Development Goals. Say, we have picked number 7 and number 12. We've picked them because our internal team has these capacities and we're committing this amount of money towards it. Get specific and get very clear about the way you communicate. And this is one part that also with social media, and with communicating and marketing in general, in B2B, in our business, we're really bad at this. I don't want to blow my own horn. It's not about you. If you are choosing something and you are committing to it and you are making some progress, you are an example that everyone who is working so hard to affect change wants to hold up, to show the rest of the industry. You know, if Ruth is doing it, then I might be able to do it too. And hey, Kent Wong is doing it, so that's best in class. We've got to be doing it too, otherwise we're not up there with the big guys. So remember that it's not about you. It's not about marketing. It's not about tooting your own horn. It's about being an example of someone saying, I'm trying, I'm going to be clear about how I'm trying, and I'm going to be clear about how I'm measuring, and I'm going to share it with you. And we can all do the same thing. So it's not about you. What you're doing is raising awareness to create more momentum so that the more of us that work together on all of these initiatives, the more impact we're actually going to have. So if you are the owner of the company, and many of you guys are, or the key decision makers, think about shining a spotlight on the people in your team or the departments that are working on the projects. Think about not as if you're shining a spotlight, look at me, I'm doing the right stuff, and ooh, everybody's gonna think that I'm just trying to sell more jewelry because I'm ESG, focused. Don't think about it that way. Think about really shining a spotlight on the people inside of your business that are working on this, and about how joining with other companies collaboratively, that you've become stronger together. So constantly think about that spotlight and about the communication as not about promoting yourself or how wonderful you are, but about shining the spotlight on the collaboration and the people in your team that are working on it. Okay, this is super important. It's about progress. It's not about perfection. It's about saying, this is where I'm standing today. And there's lots of problems with this. I had a fantastic conversation with Sean briefly outside, saying this is where we are is so important. That's your baseline. And the only way is up in a lot of these circumstances, right? So taking a stand and being very, very clear that this is about making progress from where you stand today, right? Every journey begins with a single step. So just number one, take a snapshot, take that long, hard look at where are you today and where can you make changes in the core way that you conduct your core business that can contribute towards progress, towards any one of these goals, right? And then your basic things that your mama taught you when you were young is still true, right? Be honest. Tell the truth about the work that you're beginning, about your progress, about your lack of progress, or how you plan to strengthen the cause. Talk about your plans, and then talk very specifically about how you're going to execute them, right? A Gantt chart is my favorite thing in the world. So this is just an example of how you can be really specific about a goal, right? You can say, this is where we're starting from right now, and here's how we're going to go a little bit further towards that goal, right? Getting excited up here. Okay. I'll let you read the slides. I don't think I need to read for anyone. The next thing is share your goals regularly, right? We talk to our clients every Friday. Here's what we did last week. Here's what we're going to do next week. Here's where there's roadblocks, and here's where we went a little faster than we thought. And the Gantt chart, got a little compressed, so we're going to make progress faster. That touch base every Friday means I know where my money is going. I know what the Hill & Company experts are doing to move me more swiftly towards where I want my business to be, right? So share those goals regularly. Touch the different entities that want to know what progress you're making and what decisions you're making, right? So share continuously. There's loads of ways to do it. You can do it through your email newsletters. You can do it through your social media posts. You can do it through stakeholder reports. I mean, these can get bigger and more sophisticated, or they can be very simple. But communicate, and sustainability reports, right? So different audiences you're going to communicate to in different ways, right? So your stakeholder reports might go to your employees or your consumers or your buyers. Your sustainability reports might go to entities that are helping you move towards your sustainability goals, right? So communicate what do you communicate? I'm going really fast. I have 12 minutes left, but you guys are smart, so I don't have to slow down, right? So what do you have to communicate? Your actions. You have to communicate your efforts, right? Even if they're successful or not successful, right? So your achievements when you get them, and your failures when they happen. And your analysis of why did that happen and how do I make a change so that I can have a better result next time. So what are my next steps based on that analysis? This is what you have to communicate. The whole goal here, if you keep your mindset, this is to inspire me, my team, the industry that I love so much, to move towards and follow my lead and join this team. We are the popular club here. So inspire others so that we can all achieve progress together. That is the goal. And if you keep that focus, you won't feel so much like you're shining a light on yourself, and you won't slip into the marketing ease of it. We're great because we do this. That's not the goal, right? The goal is actually to make the impact, actually see and affect change, and to inspire others to join you, right? So be honest, be realistic, and grow your capacity to do better. Where you see that there's a blockage in your business in making progress towards those goals, then you can add another thing to your to-do list, right? In order to be able to do this better next time, because that was a failure and not achievement, here's some steps that we've got to add in. It's okay if it's going to take a little longer, as long as we're transparent about the way we're communicating that. So here's another example about how you may communicate your goals and your long-term plans to your audience, whether that's your stakeholders or your shareholders, right? So communicating progress really helps you be accountable. Ever say, I'm going to start going to the gym every week, and you get a gym buddy? If you know she's going to be waiting in her yoga pants outside of class for you, you show up, even if you don't want to go. So by announcing this in your newsletter and committing to a once-per-year sustainability report, don't overcommit, go low. You can always go quicker later. But once you commit to it, you got to show up. So keep yourself accountable by this communication progress. This is part of why communication is so important. And measuring equals moving. In marketing, I often say to people, if you're not measuring, you're not marketing, right? I also often say, if a tree falls in a forest and no one heard it, it did not fall. It did not fall. 60 to 80% of the people who are looking to do business with you are looking at you online. So if you are not communicating on your email newsletters, if you're not communicating on your social media, nobody knows what you're doing. And no, you don't want to boast about it, but you want to inspire and you want to be part of the progress. So if a tree falls in the forest and no one heard it, it did not fall. Make sure your trees are falling, right? And make sure you're measuring how quickly they're falling. What saws work best? I don't know if we should be sawing down trees with this analogy. Okay, progress must be measurable, right? So goals should be ambitious, absolutely, but realistically achievable in a period of time. So try to think about that balance between having ambitious goals, but making sure that they're realistically achievable. Now, how do we track the progress? That's like, I had this epiphany at the Utah Park City conversation. I stood up and I asked a question and said, oh my God, I have a launch and growth expert business management company, and I never thought, like, how am I going to be able to contribute to this? I still fly around the world. How do I make better choices about my CO2 footprint? Wow, I have to track it. I have to figure out my baseline and start to track it. So it became a question that I got some answers to, and so I'm sharing them with you. Set some key performance indicators, right? When I ran the New York City Marathon, for example, not that I'm showing off, but I did run the Hong Kong one too. At around mile 1, I go, whoa, don't go out too fast, lady. You're not going to have enough in the tank for the last one, right? And around mile 5, I check again, right? And that is my key performance indicator. Will I do this marathon in under 3.5 hours? Yes or no? I don't know at hour 1, right? But I can look at my miles per minute and understand whether I'm on the right track, right? So that's a key performance indicator. Oh, there's so many acronyms in our industry, KPIs, right? So that's all it is. Am I on the right track? Am I going fast enough for that ambitious goal that's realistically achievable or not, right? So measure them. What are they going to be for you, right? They're going to be different for each of you because you're doing number 2, you're doing number 4, you're doing 17, right? They're going to be different for each of you. So think about, like, what am I measuring here? Am I measuring years? Am I measuring units? Am I measuring dollars? Am I measuring gallons saved? There are so many different ways to measure. You have to think about, is there a tool that can measure this? Is there a way to quantitatively see how much progress I'm making towards those 3 goals? And think about all 5 of these buckets before you sign up for those 3 goals, right? And we're going to talk about that in a second. 7 minutes, I'm doing all right. Acres preserved, there's so many different ways, right? Once you determine, okay, I've set these 3 goals, I have the infrastructure, the skill set, and the finances to commit to them, I'm starting to communicate, and we'll talk about the calendar of communication that you need. It is very dry up here. But maybe I'm just excited, because I'm so excited about this topic. Use what the KPIs tell you, right? They're not there just to report, send out, and go back to the core business, right? You have to take a look at those KPIs and say, okay, how many miles did I run in that first hour? And am I going to do it in under 3.5? And once I look at it and go, I'm going out too fast, I'm going to start running a little more slowly because I know that I'm going to run out of steam, right? I'm going to look at those actions, look at those KPIs, and I'm going to change my actions. I'm going to make better choices so that I can continue to make better, more consistent progress towards my goals. That's super important. They're not just there to put into a report and not look at. You have to look at those KPIs and go, what are they telling me? Are they telling me I'm doing really well? Are they telling me I have more capacity than I thought? Are they telling me that I overestimated how much this was going to take? And then change your behavior and announce it. We're all human. Nobody minds. If you're honest about, I wanted to go here by this time, but it's not going to happen based on the data that we're taking a look at. Just clearly communicate that, right? And then also consider, that gym buddy, right? Consider who's going to keep you on course. Who's going to help you stay on course? There are almost too many people available. So you do have to pick the teams or the internal team members that are really going to stay to task and are really going to be consistent about monitoring and contributing to the changes in the way you do your core business. You can also communicate this out to your top clients, right? Because many of us in this room know that retailers want to be able to say certain things about their suppliers, and so you can communicate to them and say, I'm going to get here by then. Here's what I'm doing to get there, and I'm going to talk to you about it every 6 months. Your top clients can really be a good cheerleader for you, right? Your community leaders and trade organizations, there's so many organizations popping up that are really have their hearts in the right place and want to be able to help you. Try them all on for size. Get a 14-day free trial and see whether you're really getting supported by RJC, SCS, WJI 2030, CIBJO. There's so much out there for you. See where you really feel like you're getting the support that's going to keep you on target and support you when you don't know what the answer to the question is, right? And don't be scared about asking questions. You all know that I'm not scared about that. Or consultants with ESG expertise. Obviously, Haley Janelle de Tierson from my team is our ESG expert. She's in France and works with some of you in this room. An external service provider can focus on things sometimes much better than we can when we're totally focused on the core business. So, I also like to educate everyone to create their ESG goals content calendar, right? Because it's about communicating, because the tree didn't fall unless you communicate. You have to make sure that you create a plan. If you don't plan it, it doesn't happen, right? If you don't have a plan, or if you fail to plan, you've planned to fail, right? So you need to have a plan that says, okay, every third month I'm going to report KPIs, or every 6 months I'm going to report KPIs. On social media, I'm going to do a post once per week or once per every 10 posts on our ESG efforts. You have to map it out on a calendar and stick to that so that it becomes just like any other deliverable in your business. Your quality control comes after you finish production, and your ESG communication has to come after you do another round of analysis and assessment and a decision-making around your next steps, right? So think about the different audiences that you're communicating to. You're communicating to your clients. You're communicating to your employees. They're your first customer, right? And they're the workhorses that are going to help you, right? So your employees and your shareholders. I don't talk to my 12-year-old son the same way I talk to my husband. So different audiences need different content, and they need it communicated in a different way. What's in it for them, right? Why can your employees be so proud to be working for you? Because although you're not where you wish you were, you're making progress toward it, and you're planning to succeed in that progress, right? So the way you're talking to your employees is going to be totally different than stakeholders that may be saying, oh, we're going to get bigger profit margin if you can sell to Signet, So whoever your audience is, you're going to be communicating in a very different way. It doesn't mean you're saying different things, but it means you're talking to them about what adds value to them so that they are inspired to continue supporting you along your journey, right? So you want to share the measurements of the steps you take, both forward and back, and you want to share the data, right? Whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. As long as you're putting in effort and you're learning and you're changing when things don't go the way that you want them to, that's fine. And the decisions that you make based upon that data, that's super important. Okay, I'm going to do a speed round, Rui, because I got 1 minute and 27 seconds, and I want to have room for questions because God knows I ask them. So act first, talk later. All of that planning comes before you start communicating, right? You don't say, we're going to start. No. Act first, communicate later. It's yes, once you have your forward-arching, realistically but achievable but ambitious plan, you can communicate that. But you've got to do this homework in-house before you start talking at all. Facts are much more important than claims. Don't decide, I want us to be able to make this claim. Now, how do we go about doing that, right? No. Look at what we're doing, what we're actually achieving, and once we have those facts in place, then we can make a claim. We have achieved a transition from X to Y in the past 5 years, right? So facts are so much more important than claims, right? And certification, validation, verification, difficult is good, right? If everybody could do it and there wasn't a really high bar, then it wouldn't really separate you from the pack. So kind of embrace how hard it is. I was, again, Sean was talking about, like, God, they're up inside your underwear drawer, but they are then validating all that hard work that you're doing. Prove it. Whatever you're doing, show, don't tell. We can all talk a lot, but show the data, show the facts, show the figures, and provide context, right? If a digital marketing expert said to me, hey, you're getting a 0.02% open rate on your email, I would go, is that good or bad, right? You want to know, you want to strive for a 20% open rate, otherwise you're not really even where you need to be, right? So give context around the information that you share, and be specific, be accurate. There are sources on here, but the overarching message is that communicating is not just about you. It's about the entire planet, and it's about ESG, and it's about inspiring other people to join the cause so that we can all work together. Thank you.
Wow. Elle, let me tell you, you prepared a 1-hour presentation.
Prepared a 1-hour presentation.
And we must appreciate the effort that Elle did, condensing it into a half an hour. Thank you very much. You're brilliant. Thank you. We don't have time for questions, but I'm sure that you will wish to reach Elle out at the coffee break, and not during the sessions, and ask her as many questions as you can, because she can help you grow your business.